The galaxy watched in dread as humanity rose and left the talks commander. Alan Wright sat in the large, cold meeting room aboard the Galactic Council's diplomatic vessel. The metal chair felt uncomfortable beneath him, but his discomfort came more from what he had just heard than from where he sat. The alien delegation had finished speaking, and now all eyes were on the humans. The tall, insect-like Zarlax representative clicked its mandibles together, waiting for a response. Its compound eyes reflected the harsh lighting of the room as it stared at the human delegation. Beside it, the crystalline form of the Veldorian diplomat sparkled with light patterns that Alan had learned indicated impatience. The third alien, a Mernan whose body existed as a swirling cloud of purple gas contained in a special suit, hovered silently. "You expect us to dismantle 80% of our defense fleet?" Alan finally asked, breaking the silence. "And allow your oversight committees on all our space missions?" Ambassador Kelly Palmer placed a gentle hand on Alan's arm, signaling him to let her handle the diplomatic response. Her calm face showed none of the alarm Alan knew she must be feeling. "What the commander means," she said with a practiced smile, "is that these terms seem rather strict for a new member of your council. We were hoping for a more equal partnership." The Zarlax made a sound like grinding stones. "Equal? Your species developed from simple flight machines to nuclear weapons in less than 5 decades. No other known species has ever shown such rapid advancement." The alien spoke the last word as if it tasted bad. Alan looked around the room at the other humans. Lieutenant Susan Reyes stood by the door, her eyes sharp and watchful. Dr. Nathan Powell, Earth's expert in alien languages, was recording everything in his tablet. None of them looked afraid, Alan noticed. Concerned, yes, but not afraid. "We understand your concerns," Ambassador Palmer replied. "But surely there's room to discuss these terms?" The crystalline Veldorian sparkled brightly. "The terms are generous, considering the risk your species presents. The Council has studied your history, war after war, weapons designed only to kill. More efficiently, your entertainment is filled with stories of conflict and conquest." Alan wanted to point out that humanity had also created medicine, art, and music, that they had worked to save endangered species and heal their planet. But he knew it would make no difference. The Council had already decided what humanity was. "We offer you protection and guidance." The gaseous Mernan spoke, its translation, device making its voice sound hollow. Many young species would be grateful for such an opportunity. Young species. The words echoed in Alan's mind. That's how they saw humans, as children who needed to be controlled before they hurt themselves, or others. "We thank the Council for this generous offer," Ambassador Palmer said carefully. "As this is a decision that affects all of Earth, we request time to consult with our government." The 3 alien representatives looked at each other, communicating, in ways the humans couldn't understand. Finally, the Zarlax spoke. "You have 48 Earth hours to consider our offer. We strongly advise acceptance." After the aliens left, the humans gathered in their private chamber aboard the ship. The room had been checked for listening devices, and Lieutenant Reyes ran another scan just to be sure. "They're afraid of us," Dr. Powell said, pacing the room. "Did you notice their body language when discussing our technological growth rate?" Ambassador Palmer nodded. "They see us as a threat." "But why?" asked Gary Mitchell, the science officer who had been silently observing during the meeting. "We've barely left our own solar system. The Council controls thousands of worlds across multiple galaxies according to their own information." "It's not what we are," Alan said. "It's what we could become." Susan Reyes looked up from her scanning device. "These aren't membership terms. These are containment protocols." The room fell silent as everyone considered this. Alan walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth waited for their report. His home, with its blue oceans and green forests, its busy cities and quiet villages. 7 billion people who had no idea their future was being decided in this cold room. "We need more information," Ambassador Palmer decided. "Gary, Nathan, analyze everything they've given us about Council history and previous new members. Susan, see if our ship can detect any other Council vessels in the area. I want to know if they brought more than this diplomatic vessel. And me? Alan asked. Palmer looked at him with determination in her eyes. You and I are going to prepare for tomorrow's meeting. If they want to see us as a threat, let's at least understand why. The next morning, as the human delegation prepared to return to the meeting room, Susan pulled Alan aside. Commander, she whispered, I've detected energy signatures behind Jupiter's moons. They're trying to hide, but our new sensors can pick them up. How many ships? Alan asked, his heart sinking. At least 15, maybe more. Big ones. Alan nodded grimly. Not just a diplomatic mission, then. No, sir. This looks like the advance team for something much larger. Ambassador Palmer joined them, her face showing she had already been informed. This changes things. They're not just offering membership. They're prepared to force compliance. Alan looked at his fellow humans. None showed fear, only resolve. Then we need to understand why they fear us enough to bring a fleet, but still offer talks, instead of simply attacking. They're not as united as they want us to believe, Dr. Powell said, joining the hushed conversation. I've been analyzing the historical data they provided. There are inconsistencies, gaps where information seems to have been removed. Like, what? Palmer asked. Like what happened to other species that didn't accept council terms, Powell replied. There are several mentioned in early records that simply disappear from later accounts. The door to the meeting chamber slid open, revealing the council representatives waiting inside. Alan straightened his uniform and looked at Ambassador Palmer. Remember, she said quietly to the group, we represent all of humanity today. Whatever they're planning, we need to discover the truth. As they entered the room, Alan noticed something different in the alien's posture. The Zarlax's antennae twitched nervously. The Veldorian's crystal structure seemed dimmer than before. Even the Mernan's gaseous form swirled more rapidly. They know we're not intimidated, Alan realized, and that worries them. Ambassador Palmer took her seat at the table, her diplomatic smile firmly in place, but her eyes when they met Alan's showed that she had come to the same conclusion. The council feared humanity, and fear, as humans knew all too well, could lead to either respect or destruction. We're ready to continue our discussions, Palmer said to the aliens. But first we have some questions about these Category 7 civilization protocols you've classified us under. The silence that followed told Alan everything he needed to know. Day 2 of the talks had begun, and Earth's future hung in the balance. The galaxy watched in dread as humanity rose and left the talks. The silence in the meeting room felt heavy. The three alien representatives looked at each other, their bodies showing signs of surprise and worry. The Zarlax's mandibles clicked, rapidly, a sign of distress that Dr. Powell had noted in his studies. Category 7? The insect-like alien finally said. I'm not sure what you mean, Ambassador Palmer. Alan Wright watched as Kelly Palmer leaned forward slightly. Her face remained calm, but her eyes had a sharpness to them now. Our team found references to civilization categories in the documents you provided, she said. Earth has been classified as Category 7. We'd like to know what that means exactly. Dr. Powell opened his tablet and displayed a translated document. It's mentioned here in Section 42 of the membership protocols. Category 7 is described as potentially dangerous species requiring special integration measures. The crystalline Veldorian flickered with patterns of light that Dr. Powell later told them meant alarm and anger. Those documents were not meant for your review, it said. They were included in the data packet given to us, Gary Mitchell pointed out. If we weren't meant to see them, perhaps your team made an error. Ambassador Palmer smiled. We're simply trying to understand our position. Are there other Category 7 civilizations currently in the Council? The three aliens seemed to have a silent conversation, their bodies shifting in ways that suggested disagreement. Finally, the gaseous Myrnan moved forward. There are no current Category 7 members, it admitted through its translation device. Were there any in the past? Alan asked directly. Another uncomfortable silence filled the room. Perhaps, Ambassador Palmer suggested, we should take a short break. We can continue our discussion in 1 hour. Back in their private room, the human delegation gathered around a small table. Susan Reyes had connected securely to the Earth. Ship USS Guardian, which waited at the edge of the solar system. I've confirmed it, she said. 15 Council warships behind Jupiter's moons, and they've sent small probes into Earth's atmosphere. They're scanning our major cities. Alan felt cold anger rise inside him. They're preparing for a forced compliance scenario. Or worse, Dr. Powell added. I've been translating more of their historical documents. There are references to retired civilizations, species that were deemed too dangerous and were removed. They wouldn't dare, Gary Mitchell said, but his voice lacked conviction. Ambassador Palmer looked at each of them. We need more information, and we need allies. The Council can't be as united as they want us to believe. I might have something, Dr. Powell said. During our break, I noticed a junior Myroxian representative watching us. Their species joined the Council 200 years ago. They might be willing to talk. Alan nodded. Susan and I will try to make contact. The rest of you, keep analyzing what we know. We need leverage. Finding the Myroxian wasn't difficult. The slender, blue-skinned alien was lingering in a quiet corridor, clearly waiting for them. Its 4 eyes blinked nervously as Alan and Susan approached. I am Zul, it said in surprisingly good English. We don't have much time. Why are you helping us? Susan asked directly. Zul's skin rippled, which Alan took as their version of a shrug. Not all Council members agree with how new species are treated, especially not species with potential, like humans, Alan said. Your neural architecture, Zul explained, allows for innovation patterns other species can't match. What takes us centuries takes you decades. Is that why we're Category 7? Susan asked. Zul looked around nervously. The founding species fear rapid change. They prefer control. My people were once Category 5. We accepted their terms, lost our independence, became worker species. And if we refuse? Alan asked. Zul's 4 eyes all blinked at once. No Category 7 has ever refused, but the battle fleet behind your Jupiter would suggest they don't expect acceptance. Why tell us this? Susan pressed. Change is coming to the Council, Zul said. Many junior species watch Earth with interest, not fear. We must go now. Others are watching. As Zul hurried away, Alan and Susan exchanged a look. We're not alone, Susan said quietly. No, Alan agreed, and neither are they. When they returned to their quarters, they found Dr. Powell excited about a discovery. I've been analyzing the technical specifications they included in the membership package, he explained. Their technology is advanced, but not beyond our understanding. In fact, our scientists have been developing similar principles, just in different ways. He displayed a diagram of the Council's faster-than-light drive system. They use quantum folding techniques. Our Mitchell drive works differently, but achieves similar results. And our approach might actually be more adaptable, more powerful in the long run. Gary Mitchell studied the diagrams. They don't know about our latest advancements. The Mitchell drive is still classified. Ambassador Palmer took this all in, her mind working quickly. So they fear our potential, not our current capabilities. And they're not as far ahead of us as they want us to believe. A secure communication from Earth interrupted them. General Patricia Rivera's face appeared on the screen. We've detected Council probes scanning our cities, she said without preamble. How are the talks going? Ambassador Palmer gave a quick summary of what they had learned. The general's face grew grimmer with each detail. So they're preparing for forced compliance if we don't accept their terms, she concluded, which would effectively end humanity's independence. That's our assessment, Palmer agreed. The general looked at Commander Wright. Alan, you need to know that Earth Defense Command has been preparing for first contact scenarios for decades, including hostile ones. Alan straightened. You have a plan? We have Protocol Omega, the general said. A planetary defense grid that's been in development for years, hidden facilities around the planet and in orbit. We've kept it compartmentalized, off most official records. Can it stand against their fleet? Susan asked. We believe so. The General replied. Especially if they don't know it exists. But activation will take time and we'll need to coordinate globally without the Council noticing. Alan nodded. How long? 24 hours. Maybe less. Ambassador Palmer looked resolute. We need to keep the Council talking for one more day, make them think we're considering their offer. And then? Gary asked. Palmer's eyes were steel. And then humanity shows the galaxy we won't be contained or controlled. As they prepared for the next round of talks, Alan felt a strange mix of fear and pride. Humanity stood at a crossroads. The path ahead was dangerous, but for the first time since the talks began, he felt hope. The Council had made a critical mistake. They had judged humanity by its past, not its potential. They had seen the wars and conflicts that scarred human history, but missed the innovation, the adaptability, the determination that drove humans forward. Most of all, they had revealed their own weakness, fear. And as any human could have told them, trying to cage something you fear often makes it more dangerous, not less. Alan straightened his uniform and nodded to Ambassador Palmer. Ready for round 3? Her smile was genuine now, with no diplomatic facade. The Council has no idea what's coming. The galaxy watched in dread as humanity rose and left the talks. The third day of talks began with a different energy. The human delegation entered the meeting room with quiet confidence that puzzled the Council representatives. Ambassador Palmer smiled warmly as she took her seat, while Commander Wright and Lieutenant Reyes positioned themselves strategically around the room. We've considered your offer carefully, Palmer began, her voice pleasant but firm. We have a few more questions before we give our response. The Zarlax representative clicked its mandibles together. Time grows short, Ambassador. The Council expects your answer today. Palmer nodded. Of course, we simply want to understand what happened to previous Category 7 civilizations. Our records show none currently exist in the Council. The 3 alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. The crystalline Veldorians' light patterns flickered rapidly, and what Dr. Powell had learned was their equivalent of anger. That information is not relevant to your decision, the Mernan's translation device stated flatly. Commander Wright stepped forward slightly. With respect, it seems very relevant. If we're being classified in a category that has no current members, we'd like to know why. While the official talks continued in the main chamber, Susan Reyes was making progress elsewhere. Using the access codes provided by Zool, she had entered a restricted area of the Council ship's database. What she found confirmed their worst fears and gave them unexpected hope. The Council wasn't the unified force it pretended to be. The founding species, the Zarlax, Veldorians, and Mernans, maintained control through technological superiority and military might. Many member species had been uplifted under strict limitations, essentially becoming servant races rather than equals. Most importantly, she discovered that several previous Category 7 civilizations had been retired, a bland term for orbital bombardment that had reduced advanced societies to pre-industrial levels or worse. Susan downloaded as much data as she could before returning to the human quarters. She found Dr. Powell analyzing the Council's technical specifications with growing excitement. Their technology is impressive, he said as she entered, but it's following predictable patterns. They haven't had a major breakthrough in almost 300 years. Susan connected her device to their secure system. That fits with what I found. The Council structure actively discourages innovation. Member species are given technology rather than developing it themselves. It maintains the hierarchy. Dr. Powell pointed to his screen. Look at this. Their FTL drive hasn't changed in centuries. Our Mitchell drive approaches the problem differently. It's less stable but potentially much faster. And they don't know about it, Susan realized. They've been watching our official space programs, but the Mitchell drive has been completely classified. A soft chime interrupted them as a secure transmission from Earth arrived. General Rivera's face appeared on the screen. Protocol Omega is proceeding ahead of schedule, she reported. 70% of defense systems are now online. Hidden facilities around the planet are activating. We'll be ready in 6 hours. Any reaction from the Council fleet? Commander Wright asked, joining the call. They've moved their probes to monitor our major military installations, the general replied. But they haven't detected the Omega sites. They're looking in all the wrong places. Keep it that way, Ambassador Palmer instructed. We need to maintain the element of surprise. After the call ended, the human delegation gathered to plan their next move. They had less than 6 hours to keep the Council talking, to hide the activation of Earth's defenses. We need a distraction, Palmer said. Something that will keep them focused on us, not on what's happening back home. Commander Wright smiled, slightly. I think I know just the thing. When they returned to the meeting room, the human delegation brought with them several data tablets. Ambassador Palmer set hers on the table with a gentle but deliberate motion. We've prepared a counter-proposal, she announced. The Council representatives looked startled. The Zarlax's antennae twitched rapidly. Counter-proposal? It repeated. The terms are not negotiable. All diplomatic terms are negotiable, Palmer replied smoothly. That's the nature of diplomacy. And if we're to join your council as a truly equal member, we should begin as we mean to continue. The Mernan's gaseous form swirled faster in its containment suit. You misunderstand your position. The council is offering protection, guidance, control, Commander Wright cut in. Let's be honest about what's being offered here. Palmer opened her tablet. Our counter-proposal is simple. Humanity will join the Galactic Council as a full member with equal standing to the founding species. We will maintain our current military capabilities, and we will share our technological innovations freely with all Council members. The room fell silent. The Council representative stared at Palmer as if she had suggested something impossible, perhaps even insane. Such terms are unacceptable, the Veldorian finally said, its crystalline structure pulsing with bright, angry lights. Why? Palmer asked simply. If the Council truly represents a cooperative alliance of species, why would equal membership be unacceptable? Your species is too young, too volatile, the Zarlax insisted. Too innovative, Susan suggested. Too likely to disrupt the current power structure. The Mernan drifted closer to the table. You speak of things you do not understand. The Council has maintained peace across 12 galaxies for millennia. Peace through control, Wright noted, not peace through cooperation. Palmer looked directly at the Council representatives. We know about the previous Category 7 civilizations. We know what retirement means in Council terms. The Zarlax made a harsh sound, its compound eyes fixed on Palmer with new intensity. How did you access classified records? Perhaps, Palmer suggested with a slight smile. Humanity's innovation extends to information gathering as well as technology. The meeting descended into accusations and denials. The Council representatives demanded to know how humans had accessed restricted information. The human delegation deflected, asked more questions, kept the conversation moving in circles. Hours passed. Throughout it all, Commander Wright kept one eye on the time. 3 hours until Protocol Omega was fully activated. 2 hours. 1. As the debate continued, Susan's tablet discreetly vibrated with an incoming message. She glanced down, then made a subtle gesture to Commander Wright. He nodded almost imperceptibly. Protocol Omega was ready. Wright stepped forward, interrupting an increasingly heated exchange between Palmer and the Zarlax representative. Before this discussion continues, he said calmly, there's something you should know. We've been aware of your battle fleet hiding behind Jupiter's moon since we arrived. The Council representatives froze. The Veldorians' light patterns went completely still, a sign of shock. We've also detected your probes scanning our planet, Wright continued. These actions violate the very diplomatic protocols you claim to uphold. The Zarlax's mandibles clicked rapidly. A precaution only, standard procedure for Category 7 civilizations, Palmer finished. Those you plan to control or eliminate if they don't comply. The Mernan drifted forward. Your misunderstanding puts you in a dangerous position, Ambassador. The Council has resources you cannot imagine. Wright looked directly at the aliens, his face calm but his eyes hard. Before you make threats, you should know that we've shared all our findings with Earth. Protocol Omega is now in effect. The term meant nothing to the Council, but Wright's tone made the implied meaning clear. Earth was not defenseless. Earth was ready. For the first time since the talks began, the alien representatives looked truly uncertain. The galaxy watched in dread as humanity rose and left the talks. The silence in the meeting room stretched for several long seconds. The three Council representatives looked at each other, communicating in ways the humans couldn't understand. Finally, the Veldorian's crystalline form glittered with rapid patterns of light. "What is Protocol Omega?" it asked, its translator giving the words a sharp edge. Commander Wright smiled slightly. "A planetary defense system. One your probes failed to detect because they were looking for weapons we would place in plain sight. Humanity has learned to hide its strengths." The Zarlax's compound eyes fixed on Wright. "You're bluffing. Our scans would have detected any significant defensive system." Ambassador Palmer shook her head. "Not if you don't know what to look for. The universe is full of surprises, isn't it?" At that moment, Susan's tablet displayed a new message. She passed it to Palmer, who read it and then looked up at the Council representatives with renewed confidence. "Your fleet has just detected unusual energy readings from Earth," she said. "They're trying to identify them now. Would you like me to save them the trouble? Those are our defense platforms coming online. 200 of them, placed in orbit and hidden on the surface of our planet." The Mernan's gaseous form swirled rapidly in what Dr. Powell had identified as their version of alarm. Such a system would take decades to build without detection. 50 years, actually, Wright confirmed. "Since we first realized we might not be alone in the universe. Humanity has been preparing, quietly and carefully." The Veldorian's lights flickered rapidly. "Perhaps," it began, its voice now conciliatory, "we can reach a compromise." "There will be no compromise on our sovereignty," Palmer interrupted firmly. Then she stood up from her chair. It was a simple gesture, but in that moment it carried enormous weight. The entire human delegation rose with her in perfect unison, as if they had practiced this moment. "The galaxy has watched us with dread since our arrival on this stage," Palmer said, her voice clear and strong. "You've misinterpreted our rapid advancement as a sign of aggression rather than innovation. You've plotted to contain us rather than welcome us as equals." The Council representatives shifted uncomfortably. Around the large chamber, other alien delegations, the junior members of the Council who had observed silently until now, began to murmur among themselves. "Humanity will not be subjugated," Palmer continued. "We will not be contained. We are leaving these talks, but we are not closing the door to future relations, as equals." With that, the human delegation began moving toward the exit with calm, measured steps. The Council chamber erupted with clicks, whistles, and electronic translations as the observer species reacted. The Zarlax rose from its seat, its tall insect body towering over the table. "If you leave now, you reject the protection of the Council. Your world will stand alone." Susan Reyes, who had been silent throughout most of the exchange, stopped at the door and turned back. "Are you sure about that?" she asked. Her eyes moved deliberately to several junior species representatives who quickly looked away from their Council superiors. The implication was clear. Earth had already begun building alliances. As the human delegation walked through the corridors of the Council ship toward their own vessel, they maintained their dignified pace. Only when they reached the airlock of their ship did Ambassador Palmer speak again. "Do you think they'll attack?" she asked Wright quietly. "They're still trying to understand what just happened," he replied. "By the time they decide, we'll be back at Earth and Protocol Omega will be fully operational." The journey back to Earth took 6 hours at maximum speed. During that time, the delegation received updates from General Rivera. The Council fleet had moved from behind Jupiter's moons but had not approached Earth. Instead, they maintained a position just beyond the range of conventional weapons. "They're scanning us constantly," the general reported, "trying to understand our defense capabilities." But the Omega platforms are designed to appear dormant until activated. They see only a fraction of our strength. When they arrived in Earth orbit, the delegation was surprised to see several smaller alien vessels had broken away from the main Council fleet. These ships sent a transmission requesting permission to approach Earth separately from the Council forces. "It's Zul," Susan said as the message was decoded, "and representatives from 16 other junior Council species. They're requesting direct talks with Earth, without Council oversight." Ambassador Palmer looked at Wright with a mixture of hope and caution. "A new alliance?" "Possibly," he agreed. "Or a trap." Palmer considered this. "Have them dock at the orbital station, maximum security protocols, but let's hear what they have to say." The delegation transferred to Earth's largest space station to meet with the alien representatives. Security teams scanned each visitor thoroughly, but the aliens submitted to these measures without complaint. Zul, the Myroxian who had helped them earlier, stepped forward as spokesperson for the group. "What you did today will change the galaxy," the blue-skinned alien said. "For centuries, the founding species have used fear and control to maintain their position. They classify, contain, or destroy any civilization that might one day challenge them." "And now?" Palmer asked. "Now they face what they have always feared, a species they cannot easily control, one willing to stand against them openly." Zul's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "And they discover they are not as united as they believed." Another alien, a tall being with 6 limbs and golden scales, stepped forward. "My people, the Vex, were the first civilization categorized as dangerous. We accepted Council terms, surrendered our military, shared our technology. Within a century, we were servants, not equals." Others shared similar stories. Civilizations that had shown too much independence or advanced too quickly had been forced to choose accept limitations or face destruction. Until now, all had chosen submission. "You've shown another way," Zul said, "and many are watching." Commander Wright studied the gathered aliens. "What exactly are you proposing?" "An alliance," Zul replied. "Not based on control, but on cooperation. Equal exchange of knowledge and resources, mutual defense." Ambassador Palmer looked thoughtful. "The Council is powerful. They control vast territories, fleets larger than anything Earth could produce in a century. But they are few," the scaled Vex noted. "The founding species number only billions, while their subject worlds contain trillions of beings. Their power depends on obedience and the belief that resistance is impossible." Palmer glanced at her team. Susan nodded slightly, while Dr. Powell's eyes showed excitement at the possibilities. Wright remained cautious but interested. "Earth would need time," Palmer said finally. "Time to build, to prepare. The Council could attack before we're ready." Zul's skin rippled in what they now recognized as the Myroxian equivalent of a smile. "They won't attack immediately. Your protocol Omega has confused them. They will observe, assess, plan carefully. It gives us time." "Time for what?" Wright asked. "Time for change," Zul answered simply. "The galaxy has watched humanity rise and leave the talks. Now they watch to see what comes next." As the meeting continued into the night, Palmer felt a strange mix of fear and hope. Earth stood at the edge of a precipice, but also at the dawn of something new. The galaxy would never be the same again, and humanity would lead the way. The galaxy watched in dread as humanity rose and left the talks. 6 days had passed since humanity left the Council talks. Earth hummed with activity as people everywhere prepared for a new era. In factories around the planet, production lines shifted to create components for deep space vessels. Scientists worked around the clock, combining human innovation with concepts gleaned from Council data that Susan had downloaded. Military bases remained on high alert, but with clear orders: defend, don't attack. The Council fleet still lurked, at the edge of the solar system, watching but not advancing. In the main conference room of Earth's orbital station, Ambassador Palmer met with her team to discuss recent developments. "The Council has sent 3 separate messages asking us to return to talks," she told them. "Each one offers slightly better terms than the last." Commander Wright looked out the large viewport at the blue-green planet below. They're stalling, trying to figure out exactly what our capabilities are before they decide whether to attack or truly negotiate. Dr. Powell nodded. Their entire system is based on maintaining the hierarchy. A species that simply walks away challenges everything they've built. Susan entered the room with a tablet displaying new information. We've detected unusual movement among the Council fleet. Several ships have broken formation and appear to be leaving the system entirely. Returning to their central worlds to report, Wright suggested. Possibly, Susan agreed. Or the Council is fracturing more than we realized. Palmer studied the data with a thoughtful expression. What about our new allies? Any word from Zool and the others? They've returned to their homeworlds to gather support, Powell explained. According to Zool, many junior species have been watching these events with great interest. What we did, rising and leaving the talks, has become a powerful symbol. Wright's tablet chimed with an urgent message. General Rivera needs us at command immediately. Something's happening. When they arrived at Earth Defense Command, screens displayed multiple vessels approaching from the outer solar system. But these weren't Council ships. 17 vessels, approaching in formation, General Rivera explained. They're broadcasting, on all frequencies. It's Zool and the others. They've returned with ships from their homeworlds. On the main screen, Zool's face appeared. The Myroxian looked excited, but also nervous. Ambassador Palmer, Commander Wright, Zool said. We've returned. As promised, representatives from 17 worlds wish to begin formal alliance talks with Earth, but we must hurry. The Council is moving faster than expected. Explain, Palmer said, immediately alert. The founding species have called an emergency session. They're invoking ancient protocols to declare Earth a rogue civilization. They're gathering a larger fleet. Wright frowned. How much time do we have? Weeks, perhaps a month, Zool replied. Not long enough if we stand alone. But together? Palmer nodded decisively. Begin docking procedures. We'll start talks immediately. Over the next 3 days, the orbital station buzzed with activity, as representatives from 17 different species worked with the human delegation to create something new, an alliance based on cooperation rather than control. The Vex, with Etiob, their advanced energy systems, offered technology that complemented human innovations in propulsion. The Myroxians, experts in biological sciences, were fascinated by human medicine. Each species brought unique strengths, and for the first time in their histories they shared freely without restrictions. On the 4th day, a new ship arrived, a small, sleek vessel piloted by a species no one recognized. They call themselves the Navarre, Susan explained as the newcomers were escorted to the conference room. According to our records, they were classified as Category 6 by the Council over 1,000 years ago. They've been avoiding detection ever since. The Navarre were tall, elegant beings with silver skin that seemed to ripple like water. Their spokesperson, who called herself Alara, addressed the gathered representatives. We have watched from the shadows for centuries, she said, her voice musical and strange. When we heard that humans had risen and left the talks, we knew the time had finally come. Time for what? Palmer asked. For change, Alara replied. The Council's fear of advancement has held back countless civilizations. Innovation is controlled. Exploration is limited, all to maintain the power of the founding species. She approached a large display showing the known galaxy. With a gesture, the map expanded to reveal areas no one in the room had seen charted before. There are others like us, she explained. Species who chose freedom over submission, hiding rather than being controlled. We've built our own networks, our own technologies, different from the Council's approved designs. The room fell silent, as everyone absorbed this revelation. Then Zool stepped forward. How many? The Myroxian asked. 23 known species, Alara answered. Some advanced, some just beginning. All watching to see if this moment is real, if true change is possible. Wright looked at Palmer, his expression showing the weight of this moment. We thought we stood almost alone against the Council, but there's an entire hidden network of civilizations out there. Palmer nodded slowly, then addressed the gathered representatives. Then let's not disappoint them. What we're building here isn't just an alliance to defend against the Council. It's the beginning of a new way for species to interact across the galaxy. As the discussions continued, Earth continued its preparations. The first ship equipped with the improved Mitchell drive, now enhanced with Vex energy systems, completed its test flight, achieving faster-than-light travel with greater efficiency than any Council vessel. Manufacturing centers around the planet shifted to full production of defensive systems based on a combination of human innovation and alien technology. Each day brought new breakthroughs as scientists from different worlds shared ideas without restriction. 2 weeks after humanity had risen and left the Council talks, a new alliance was formally established. They called it the Stellar Concordat, AC, Union of Free Worlds committed to cooperation, innovation, and mutual defense. On the day the treaty was signed, Ambassador Palmer stood before representatives from now 21 different species. Earth's orbital station had been expanded to accommodate them all, with new sections being added daily. What we begin today will echo across the galaxy, she said. For too long, advancement has been feared and controlled. For too long, species have been classified and contained. Today we choose a different path. As she spoke, screens displayed the Council fleet, now grown to over 40 vessels, still watching from the edge of the solar system. They will come, Commander Wright said quietly as he stood beside her at the viewport after the ceremony. The Council won't let this stand unchallenged. I know, Palmer agreed, but they'll find something they don't expect. What's that? She smiled slightly. Unity, innovation without limits, and the knowledge that controlling others through fear only works until they realize they're not alone. As they looked out at the stars, ships from 21 different worlds moved in formation around Earth, a visual representation of the new alliance. Each had risen in their own way against control. Each had chosen to stand together rather than submit alone. The Council had watched with dread as humanity rose and left the talks. Now they would watch as humanity led something they had never anticipated, a true coalition of equals that might forever change the structure of galactic civilization. The stars seemed brighter somehow, the future both dangerous and full of possibility. Humanity had taken its first true steps into the galaxy, not as a controlled member of an ancient hierarchy, but as leaders of something entirely new, and the galaxy would never be the same.